Hey, Monica, did you know it's now even easier to listen to Round the Hay Bale podcast?
What? Really? How easy?
That's right. All you have to do is say, Alexa, play Round the Hay Bale podcast.
Playing Round the Hay Bale from Apple Podcasts.
Ooh, we fancy.
Tune in to Round the Hay Bale every Monday at 9 a.m. Central.
Round the Hay Bale is brought to you by...
With gardening season at an end, Cayce certified organic products are still what your soil needs.
From overwintering fruit trees to preparing your soil for spring, Cayce's calcium-based fertilizer gives the essential minerals they need to thrive.
Applying Cayce to agricultural soils and water has been proven to increase plant and crop yields while making vegetables and grains healthier and more nutritious.
In addition, Cayce can help restore the nutrient balance in animals when they are fed plants grown using Cayce in both soil and water.
To check out all of Cayce's organic products, visit cayce.com and use the promo code HAYBALE for 10% off your purchase.
Grab a cup of joe and gather round the hay bale with your hosts, Alicia from Country Mama Musings, Cayce from Ormsby Farms, Lisa from Yogi Hollow Farm, and Monica from Bland's Promised Land Ranch. Now, here they are. Hey, y'all. Hey.
Hello, and welcome to Round the Hay Bale. I'm Alicia.
I'm Cayce.
I'm Lisa.
And I'm Monica. Welcome back to the Hay Bale.
On this episode, y'all, we are so excited to have our friends Nikki from Five Dong Farm and Richie from Grow Build Raise on discussing with us about heat sources for the winter.
But before we get started with this amazing episode, it is brought to you by Cayce.
Again, a huge thank you to Cayce. Let's start off by welcoming Nikki and Richie. Hello, guys. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us.
We are so glad
to have you here.
We're glad to be here.
Sounds like it's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
Oh, it always is. It always is. And it's the perfect time for this podcast to be coming out because today we're going to be talking about heat sources for the winter. Regardless of what you call your own personal homestead, you need to have some backup resources and know what you're going to do for heat. It's getting to be that time of year, much across the nation here. So, guys, why don't you give all of our listeners a little insight onto what you do at your homestead for heat sources for your home?
Well, before they get into that, I wanted to just say, because most of our subscribers know that have followed us forever and ever on this podcast, that we shoot in advance. Now, those who have followed us know that we were shut down in season 3 for a little bit for some issues, but we are back up and running. And we just wanted to truly thank all of our listeners that have been loyal to us all 3 seasons and have been ride or die, waiting for us to come back. So I know I kind of interrupted and got on a soapbox, but I just wanted to thank our listeners that have gotten us over 16,000 downloads for the past 2 episodes. So thank you for that. So yes, Nikki and Richie, talk about y'all's heat source now that I've been off of my soapbox.
Well, that's what's up right there.
Congratulations on that number. That's fantastic, you guys. And you provide a wealth of information to beginners and seasoned homesteaders. So thank you for what you're doing. We both kind of came from the same thought process on homesteading. We're both looking at off-gridding. Richie has already lived that life, and Mr. Blue Jeans and I are heading towards it. We live on a funky piece of property that we bought raw land, ended up with the whole family coming here. My mom, who was in her 80s at the time, was a real trooper, but we just couldn't have her be off grid. So her home and our daughter's home have power, but the farmhouse we are building does not. So we are going to have wood heat, which we have been working with. I haven't cooked, it's a cook stove with it. But we do have a wood cook stove, and we have one that's big enough to heat the entire place. When we decided to do this and we built from the ground up, one of the thoughts I had was, well, if I have a singular wood stove in this house, how am I going to get the heat out of the kitchen? So the post and beam barn that we built is 21 feet tall, and I decided that we would have 12-foot tall walls and the rest would be open, so that in essence you have all the privacy you need from room to room, but you also have your heat rising. And then we got a giant 8-foot in diameter fan at the front of the house to move the air towards the back.
It's such a beautiful space.
So thank you. So our decision was to heat with the single source being our wood cook stove, big enough to heat 2,800 square feet. We did decide as time went on to put a smaller dedicated wood stove in the bedroom, just to, those little ones that you can put a tea kettle on, but you're not cooking, there's no oven or anything. We decided to put that well, it only has one bedroom in the bedroom. So our source for heat in our place is a wood cook stove and a singular smaller stove. What did you have at your place, Richie, in your cabin?
Oh, well, my cabin was literally a shed. So I bought a 12 by 28 lofted barn shed. Like you go down to, you see more of them in the South, from what I've noticed. I originally came from Phoenix, Arizona, and I moved to North Carolina in 2014. And you see these places of business on the side of the road, and they all sell sheds. And I was like, hey, I've had the big house, I've done this, I've done that. I quit the backstory, I guess, real quick to sum it up. I did finance for umpteen years in the automotive industry, and they moved me out to North Carolina. After so many years, I had enough, and I moved to the mountains of Western North Carolina and began my homesteading journey. I walked away from everything, and I knew I wanted to live in a cabin in the woods.
With interior heat that wasn't powered by electricity.
I didn't have anything. No, I didn't have any electricity. I didn't have anything. So I built a 336 square foot shed into my cabin, and I used a Mr. Buddy for the first few months to keep me going. It was very cold, and I had a fire pit outside. But then, I was able to save up enough money, and I bought a little wood burning stove. But it did have the capability and function to have a cooktop on it, which was pretty rad. So I was able to heat my my tea kettle up in the morning for what do you call it? I had a French press for coffee, and I used my cast iron for bacon and eggs. But so literally I had 336 square feet. So the wood stove did everything that I needed it to do.
So the basics are great, but there's a lot of other places that you can go with wood heat. And one of the things, Mr. Blue Jeans and I, took us about 12 years to get to where we wanted to be on our own land. That gave me a lot of time to figure stuff out. One of the biggest things I ran across in homesteading was rocket mass heaters via Erica and Ernie Weisner. Now, they didn't invent them, but what they did was take the technology and they perfected it. And they have several books out. Their last name is Wisner, and it's called Rocket Mass Heating. And it's extremely simple and to me, very exciting, because I'm all about less waste and saving money. And what you're doing, and the basics of it is you're building sort of with stucco blocks, concrete blocks, and an air passage. You have one section that's built in a certain configuration that they explain to you how to do, that you can just put in sticks, twigs, leaves. And because of how this thing is built, it will heat. And it doesn't take a lot to heat it. Now, the thing that I thought was the coolest about it is you can cover it in cob. And for those that don't know what cob is, it's basically a mix of straw, sand, clay, and water that you process at certain ratios, that you can find it all on the internet. And you can form it into any shape you want. It's sort of like adobe. So when you cover this rocket mass heater, let's say my idea was I wanted to make a long bench that I could sit on. It's radiating heat through the cob. You have a warmed area, and it radiates out into your house too. So to take it another step, what I was looking at was, what's my R value in my house? Where can I gather heat? So instead of wood floors, I did tile floors, because from what I read and understood, tile holds your R value better than wood. So we went with tile floors. So there's ways you can build heat upon heat to retain what you've got. I mean, for those of us that used to be office workers, raise your hand.
No. Right here.
How many people used to sit at their little cubby with a blanket on their legs because it was cold in the office, right? So I know I used to. They'd have the air on and I was freezing. So I'd sit there with a blanket. So there are basic things that if somebody works from home and really wants to come down and crunch, either they have a very small solar panel because they're off-grid and can't afford to plug in that 1,500 watt heater that blasts air everywhere. Do you know that there are indoor dog pad heaters that use about 30 to 50 watts of power that you could put down at your feet? They're on Amazon for about $30. They have different settings. Put your feet on that. When you warm certain parts of your body, wearing a hat, like your mom used to tell you when it went outside in the cold, keeps you warmer, you know? So putting your feet on a pad like that would keep your feet and legs warm instead of blowing heat all over a room that you're working in. They even have, believe it or not, they have heated keyboards. So again, if somebody's working from home, is in an outdoor grid, off-grid situation in a cabin, and they don't have a lot of money to spend, $30 gets you a heated keyboard. Now you got your hands warm. For $60, you got your feet and your hands warm without blowing that everywhere, running about 30 to 60 watts of power off of your little battery, solar panel, or what have you. So these are other great ways that I think people miss. You don't have to have the entire house warm. And sometimes you just can't.
You just can't.
You can't afford to do it. So there's smaller ways to bring it down if you kind of look and invest in things where you're not having a 1,500 watt thing blowing about. You just target areas of your body.
Yeah.
That's a great point. And it speaks to having microclimates within your larger area, that it's so important to have those microclimates when it's cold or when it's warm, because you don't need to heat the whole area if you've got a microclimate, especially if you're in a dire situation. Maybe your firewood is running low, or you've got a blizzard that's come in, and you really have to focus. You need to focus on those microclimates. So those are some great points.
That's so true. And I'll tell you a funny story. When we first moved to Kentucky, and this is a California girl who never dealt with weather before, right? So we moved to Kentucky with the family, and my youngest daughter and I were home. My husband was still out in sales. He was gone. And it was the first ice storm that they had there. And it plunged. It was 8 below. Well, this was an old house built in the 1800s. When I went and looked at the system, I didn't see any sort of setup for heating. I only saw air conditioning. And I thought, well, it's the South. I guess that makes sense. Never thought twice. So there we are in the house at -8, huddled together with all the dogs, every blanket we own on top of us. Well, we lived through it. We felt pretty proud that we got through it. Friend comes from New England to visit about a month later. We told him about it. He goes and looks at the unit. It appears as a 2-in-1. You can get air and heat from the same unit. So he flipped a switch.
No.
And we could have had heat, but we didn't
my goodness.
know.
Well, you guys definitely closer as a family.
But let me say, that was my first inkling that you can make it happen. You don't have to heat the whole house. Hence, microclimates is exactly what you're saying. Yes, figure it out. Do you work from home? How are you going to heat that room, or just yourself in that room?
Right.
That's reality. I mean, because if you're living in any cold climate, I mean, coming from New England and I'm in South Dakota now, the reality of it is, you know, you can't afford to keep it at 80 degrees. And if you're, even so, it's just not healthy for you to do that.
No, it's very true. We live further north, and our propane bill, when we were smart and bought it in July, was about 800, right? So I kept that thing at 55 degrees.
When I lived in,
I could afford more.
When I lived in my camper, I was going through propane like crazy.
Yeah,
we got the worst winter storm in North Carolina that year.
And those are external sources that you have to rely on. So besides the basics of wood heat and wood stoves, which I think anybody knows, these are things that you can do. I think a solar panel is really necessary, and a battery. If you can just do that to hook up something that is massively important to you, whether you're charging your phone or you're running a heating pad, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and my solar setup was actually, I didn't exert the money at the time because I didn't need it because of the wood stove, but I had enough solar going where my air conditioning, I had a little window unit that I put in the side of the wall to keep, I had little dogs at the time, well, I still do, but you know, I like southern summers are pretty hot. So I had the air conditioning run on a couple times, but I could have gotten like a mini split where it does the heater as well, you know, and had enough power running from the solar to be able to do that backup from the batteries.
Obviously, solar, I think, is coming more into, I don't want to say fad, but I think it's coming more into an understanding.
People are getting the realization of what's happening. So yeah.
How are some of the ways that you guys heat differently than most might?
Well, I wanted to pop in real quick again about the microclimate, since we were talking about the heat and having the microclimate. I live in a 1902 farmhouse, and we had a terrible blizzard come through the other day, last winter, sorry.
I was like, dang.
Not the other day. It seemed like the other day. And we lost power. So we lost our furnace. We lost our pellet stove, is just what Lisa and I both have for heat is a pellet stove. But we lost that power, and it was -35 with the wind chill.
Wow.
It got very cold in this house very quickly, and I was dreading the fact that I had picked up a small 2-man tent, put it in the shopping cart, and then put it back, and I didn't have it.
Oh no.
I told my husband, as I was literally in tears crying because my elbows were cold.
No.
My elbows and my nose were freezing. And I went back to that store, and the tent wasn't there, but somebody returned it. They brought it back. It's a really nice,
wow,
1-person setup, pop-up tent. It is the size of our king size bed. So we can, in instances like that, pop it open right on top of our bed, throw in some blankets and the dogs, and it creates that microclimate where our body heat, our breath, and the body heat from the dogs and our blankets, we're going to stay much warmer than we would if we were just open to the elements of that entire bedroom. And so now we're prepared. That tent is under the bed, ready to go. And that's something I would encourage everybody to look into. If you're in a cold climate and it gets cold enough where it can be deadly, you know, you need to have things set in place. And I think the ability to make a microclimate is so important. But I mentioned earlier that Lisa and I both have a pellet stove. Lisa, why don't you give us a little insight on your pellet stove?
We switched over to a pellet stove because all that we have access to is pine here to burn for wood. And quite honestly, it's too dangerous and it doesn't last as long. And I am not willing to sacrifice that. So, you know, when we were in Connecticut, we had an oil/wood-fired stove. And when, you know, Hurricane Katrina came through and oil went from $2 a gallon to almost $5, we switched right to wood because we had access to hardwood. So, you know, we have a generator that can power that if needed. We also know that if it's a storm, we keep it going in case the power goes out. Knock on wood, we've not had problems with that here. But one of the things that we have been toying around with is getting an outdoor furnace, because the two most expensive things that in your home that are going to jack up your electric bill are going to be your hot water heater and your dryer. So we're looking to do that so we can at least eliminate the hot water heater part, because we can run that all year long. So we've been looking into that, because in that application, burning pine, not hardwood, heck, you can burn pallets in something like that, is a lot safer than burning it in the house. The pine is just too much of a danger with the creosote that it creates. No matter how many times you clean it, you always have a risk of a chimney fire, and I'm just not willing to do that. The pellet stove has also made life a lot easier, and I'm not seeking to live off grid. So that's part of my thing is I've got backups, but mama wants a heat pellet stove, and I love every minute of it because it starts itself with the push of a button. So that's one of the things that we do for our heat sources.
But that's one of the cool things is there's a lot of different things that people can take advantage of. And one of the other things, if we can go out of the box a little bit and not just talk about heat sources in the home, but we want to grow year round. So yes, we have a greenhouse, but we do get snow and frost here. So the decision for our greenhouse is we're going to do barrel fire heating, where you just buy the insert for your 55-gallon drum, you run your piping through your greenhouse. And again, it's the same thing that Lisa's talking about. You can put in whatever sticks, twigs, pallets, it doesn't matter. And that allows us to be able to run our greenhouse 24/7, 365. So there's many ways to exist, not just in your home, but as a full functioning homestead with growing and everything else, heating water. We can attach a barrel fire heater to our outdoor kitchen if we want to start doing things out there if we need to as well.
Yeah.
So it's an expansive and interesting area, energy is, and a lot of new innovation coming on the market, but we kind of stick to the old school things of sticks and twigs and stucco and
basics.
brick and things like that.
Old fashioned on purpose. Yeah.
Yes, old fashioned purpose.
Well, I think one thing that also is interesting is especially Southerners, because Nikki, you and Richie are in the South like me and Monica. I think a lot of Southerners think, oh, I don't need to prepare for winter because we don't really get that cold in the South. And that's the one crazy thing, especially when we moved on to our homestead. This is our first year doing the summer on this homestead. Which when Monica came to visit us, I pulled a lot of knowledge from, okay, how do I survive from not paying $4,000 a month on, air to heat? Our house is about 2,800 square foot. How do I not pay out of the butt to keep it cool? And then when Alicia came, because I'm not like the other Southerners, I was like, okay, now how are we going to warm this house, friend? I need you to give me pointers because you would get those freak instances. Like, was it a year ago, Monica, or 2 years that we had that crazy, they decided to drop like 7 inches of snow in the South just randomly?
In 2020, it was a huge freeze. That was awful. And then I want to say even the beginning of 2021, pretty rough. I mean, we've had a few really rough winters. And, Eric will walk around this house saying all the time, oh, it doesn't freeze. We live in the desert. It's like the Sahara. He's a big whiner when it comes to that. I'm sorry, Eric, if you're listening, but he acts like we live in the stinking desert, and we don't. We live in Northeast Texas. It is humid here sometimes, and it gets stinking cold. And it doesn't get cold like Maryland cold or South Dakota cold or even Iowa cold. It gets cold like freaky weird its own planet cold here. It's like cold one day and then it's ice on the ground and then it's humid and then it's back to 85 degrees and it's disturbing. But you have to be prepared for those like giant mood swings. It's serious, like it's like a menopausal woman. Northeast Texas,
Yeah,
is a
Mother
menopausal
Nature.
woman. And she's had hot flashes. I literally went from when I think it was Monday or Tuesday, it was Monday. I went from 86 degrees in the afternoon and a cold front came in and it was 66 degrees. In an hour, it dropped 20 degrees. I couldn't believe it. I was like, dude, close the windows. I'm freezing. And they were like, Mom, you had the fans on an hour and a half ago because you were sweating. I'm like, well, guess what? Mama's cold. So I went and grabbed my hoodie and some slippers and I walked around my house, bundled up. But yeah.
The South is crazy, Monica. Even well, I guess it was last week for us too. During the day, we're at like 79, 82. And then right when it hits like 5 o'clock, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, here's the 32-degree temperatures that we promised you.
Yeah.
Well, I was laughing because Sunday we were in the upper 60s and we were looking at the bison in the park. And by Monday morning, we had a wind chill of 17 and it was brutally cold. And then that was it. Then of course, now that all the stock tank water heaters are out and everybody's ready because we had ice for 2 days in bowls, and then breaking it gets old quick for me. Then of course, as I'm putting all the water heaters out, what do I get? The notification on my phone that says unseasonably warm for Halloween.
And the thing is that sometimes it's hard to recover from those swings. We have that swings I'm not used to at all. Like when we lived up north and we had 6 feet of snow for months, you get used to it. I hate to say it, but you just, after a few years, you kind of acclimate. Coming here, of all the places we've lived, because of the swings you're talking about, it's been not really easy to acclimate. So those times that you need to be warm, when those weird winter moments hit, you have to have something at hand to make it happen. Like you were saying, a microclimate, a nice -20 sleeping bag, whatever.
Yep.
But it's not always easy because some people say, "Oh, I'm great in the cold." Okay, but you probably lived there a long time.
Yeah,
So
your body, you get
your
used
body,
to it.
it does.
Yeah.
I'm in Nevada and I got used to the heat. I lived up north. I got used to that, and now there is no getting used to the weather in the South. It just doesn't happen.
None. I
No.
joke and I say, if you don't like Georgia's weather, just wait a couple minutes because it will change. Huh?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's true. But I want to talk about kind of more because we've talked a little bit about wood stoves and we've talked a little bit about pellet stoves. And me as the junior homesteader, because I was told, Nikki and Richie, I was not allowed to call myself the newbie homesteader anymore. I am the junior homesteader.
Ooh, new bad.
Oh boy.
Yeah. This is again my first winter on the homestead, and I am looking into both pellet and wood. For the people that have them, talk about the differences and why you believe that the wood is the better or the pellet is better for our listeners, so they can kind of get opinions on why they should get the wood stove versus the pellet, or why they should get the pellet versus the wood. Alicia, you want to start it off?
Yeah, I'll share. When we moved into this 1902 farmhouse, we had picked up two beautiful wood burning stoves, kind of like what was mentioned earlier, the little potbelly ones that you can heat your coffee kettle on top of. And I was so excited to get them placed into our home in two different locations. And I started putting everything together. And I realized that for these two wood burning stoves, according to code, which is, it applies to where we live, I had to follow code. And also I had to alert my homeowner's insurance what we were doing. The wood burning stove had some speed bumps, some roadblocks for us that we had to take into consideration. One of which is, this is a 2-story home, and for us to install that stove, we would have to have double insulated chimney pipe that goes 10 foot above the highest peak of our home. And that's for proper drafting and wind flow. And I don't know about where you guys live, but that insulated pipe is pretty pricey. And we were talking about, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 feet of the insulated pipe at the cost of hundreds of dollars. On top of that, we have a pretty steep pitched roof, and I didn't want my husband going up on top of that roof to secure this chimney. I started looking into the pellet stove, and for the pellet stove, we only needed a 4-foot chimney. It doesn't even have to go above the peak of the home. It only needs to be 4 foot. So that was an instant savings for us right there. Also, with our homeowner's insurance, it was much, much more forgiving on our insurance rates, having the pellet stove as opposed to having the wood burning stove. So that is why we went with that decision. So I sold the wood burning stoves, and we put that money and we went to getting a nice wood or a pellet stove. And there was another decision there to make. Do we just go with the pellets for the wood pellets, or do we do a dual purpose wood pellets and or corn? And being that at harvest time, we are surrounded by fields at harvest time, all the little mice love to come and run into our home to seek shelter. And I thought, I don't want to stack bags and bags and bags of corn as an all-you-can-eat buffet. So we decided to just go with the one with the wood pellets. And I have to say, other than a couple of small inconveniences, the auger has gotten stuck on us a couple of times in that wood burner to deliver the pellets. And also, you have to clean out your TCAP and just some general maintenance, but otherwise we're really happy with our choice. The only negative being, when we lose power, we lose heat. So, and we have no backup heat other than possibly going out to our summer kitchen and building a fire or something. But if it's negative 35, I'm not going out to the summer kitchen to build a fire. I'm going to hunker down and have a climate.
Yeah. I'm team pellet also. And I'll tell you why. We have a generator if we need to power it. We also have access to another wood stove if we needed it. But I will tell you why I'm team pellet. Not only the issue of only having pine to burn here, but my husband works full time. I'm home, doing things. And I felt all he did when we were both working was start fires. That's all he did. We wake up in the morning, start a fire. He comes home at lunch, starts a fire again because the fire's out, comes home after work, starts a fire, finally gets it rip roaring, fire's dead in the middle of the night, got to start it all over again. This has actually been extremely cheap. We buy 5 pallets a year, but we're heating for 9 months of the year here. We heated into June and it's costing us $150 a month to heat our home based on the 5 pallets. And it's easy and it's cheap. And usually people hear, oh, $260, $270 a pallet. That's a lot of money. When you break it down over 9 months in South Dakota, it's a lot different than 5 months somewhere else. But of course, if I was somewhere else, I wouldn't be using 5 pallets. I like it because the 40-pound bags are easy to manage. We have them we have them in the garage. We have them on the front porch. We take the side by side. So looking ahead to when we're older, it's which we're not far from now. I mean, I'm in my 50s. So
you're not even close.
I know. But I mean, you want to think about those things. So I think the reality of it is, watching my husband go out and cut and split wood after he's worked his butt off all week, and he likes it. I would much rather watch him take a bag of pellets and dump it in the stove and we're good to go for 24 hours. That's probably one of the big luxury things that we have here that we absolutely adore, is just not having to worry about the heat.
I agree with you at that on Lisa. Nothing would upset me more than to have my husband out there in the cold chopping wood as he's approaching 60, when we could just open up a bag of pellets and put it in. And I like the fact that you brought up the fact about the generator. We have a generator, but it's in the workshop and I'm not going to send him out at 35 below to go get it. That's something that we personally need to work on, is getting that generator up closer to the home so that we don't have a Generac or whatever it's called. We don't have one that automatically kicks on. I'd love to have one, but that's an important part of the heating that we're talking about, is for people to know that if they're going to have something that relies on power, it's good to have a backup power source to your backup heat source as well.
And I think the other thing is, we're used to living we used to live in Connecticut. We'd have ice storms all the time and we'd have frigid weather and we'd be out of power for 10, 14 days. So, you're not going to run that generator 24/7.
Right.
You're going to bundle up. That's reality. You're just going to live in your outdoor clothing because you're not going to keep running it. And if it gets totally unbearable, then you're going to run it for a little bit and you're going to shut it back off again. What about for you guys, Nikki and Richie?
Well, our decision to go with wood, and this is the cool thing about homesteading, is for especially people who are new to it and are coming to it and haven't gotten invested in it yet, know what you're going to do. We knew we were going to buy land and we have 30 acres of woods. We were concerned about supply chain issues. So for us, wood was the way to go. So we saved up and we got 2 EPA approved wood cook stove with an oven for the kitchen and a smaller wood cook stove for the back room. We also knew coming here, we were in Amish country. We had the Amish build our home, and we also went to an Amish supply house where they custom built our triple pipes for each unit, costing under $800 installed. So you need to know your area and what's viable for you. For us, wood pellets wouldn't have been viable. It wouldn't have worked for us because we have so much free here and it was so inexpensive on our land where we're at to go the route we did with the EPA certified things that we have. So it really makes, I don't think I can stress enough when people come to all of us and say, how did you do it? How do you get there? Research, 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 research. Know where you're going to go. Then when you know where you're going to go, look at the topography maps, chart the weather. It might sound stupid, but it's not, because you could make the wrong investment and then you're stuck.
Yeah, you have to know what kind of climate you want to live in. You don't want to know what type of weather you have year round. And
it makes all kinds of sense. So that's the neat thing, is we all have those awesome choices that we can make, but making them sooner or later, not getting caught, like you guys said. Oops, there's the storm. Now what? Boy, like Alicia learned, you don't forget, and you then go back and you get that supply and that part of your life all in order.
Yeah, North Carolina last year, literally last year's winter storm was the worst I'd seen. I got stuck at my place for 14 days and I got 4-wheel drive. Granted, I'm pretty on a good mountain slope going down. Nobody should be going down it, but it was good, but I was well prepared. And based upon my location, that's why I went with the wood stove.
Yeah.
You know, and plus so I made sure that I had absolutely zero restrictions.
Yeah.
The
That's the other
zoning
thing.
was
You've
the big
got to
thing
check
for
your
me.
zoning. You got to.
I live, you know, I bought a shed and, you know, I converted my cabin home. I didn't want to have to worry about money. I wanted zero mortgage. I don't want any of that nonsense anymore. You know, so I bought double walled stacks, and I was only literally, like y'all said, I was literally 4 foot off
Ours
the roof.
is, I think, and again, what Alicia was saying is we had to build specifically to over our roof. With our home being 21 feet high, we had to build
vaulted,
taller.
yeah.
But the cool thing was that the Amish community here knows that. And so all we had to do was supply measurements of our home, and they just took it and we went triple wall because we wanted to be extra safe, and our home's paid for. So
I just made sure I didn't buy pine. I didn't burn pine.
Right. No, like Lisa said.
I had all the good hardwoods. I had endless amounts of wood. So
know your woods. If
and
you
the
have
wood
woods,
splitter. So it wasn't a problem.
Yeah. And we have
but I'll just probably still be that 69, 70-year-old dude out there chopping wood.
We have 2 different log splitters. So you can use the log splitter, either one with a generator or one gas powered, whichever you prefer.
Well, I think it's important what you said is know if you're coming into homesteading, know your area. We've said it on multiple episodes of the podcast. Just because you have your favorite YouTuber or your favorite Instagrammer that is in your area, you still need to do the research for yourself.
Yeah.
What works best for you? Because just because I'm in Georgia and you love watching me doesn't mean that what I do on my homestead is the best for what you do on your Georgia.
Yeah.
Homestead. Same thing for y'all. Same thing for Monica. Same thing for Alicia. Know your area, know your zone, know the rules, know the, because I didn't know. Friend Alicia told me about the homeowners insurance stuff because we're looking into getting a wood burning stove for our homestead. And it's true. After looking into the homeowners insurance, there's a lot of rules and a lot of stipulations that you have to like jump and duck and limbo under to get wood burning stove.
That's a very good point, because I tried, because I bought a shed and I converted it and I had the wood stove. Even though I owned the property, the land, I couldn't get insured because I had wood burning stove. If I had like the mini split AC heating element, I would have been able to insure my property. So I was unable to insure my property. So that is one thing that I was very cautious of, is what I burned. And I made sure if I had to leave the property that my, the fire was a little bit lower. It wasn't roaring. But yeah, I was very cautious about what I was doing. I always paid attention. That's definitely something that people need to know, that, depending on, what you're building and what you're using. You can't always be insured.
Even though we didn't have a lot of the restrictions that you guys are all up against there, we built to a higher code than we needed, because I didn't want to live someplace where I could burn my home down. So like I said, we invested in the more expensive EPA certified stove. We built far away from the wall. Have you ever seen those videos where you're watching somebody and their wood stove is right against the wall and they have their wood right next to the wood stove? What are you doing? Yeah. So, know your wood stove if you have one, but we took every precaution that we needed to. We built the cement foundation for it. We built 36 inches away from the wall. We did triple wall instead of double wall. So there are things you can do with there are a few correct stoves on the market that you can purchase. We purchased one of those merely because out of all the investments in our home, we felt coming into this, heating was going to be, and cooking, but heating was going to be the most important. So that's why we went.
I ain't gonna lie, man. I'm not to knock any particular company. But, the one that everybody likes to go to that starts with the T, don't buy your wood stove.
Go ahead, say it, Richie. It's okay. This is the
I can't.
You can say
they all love me. They love me, and I do some stuff for them, but you just be cautious of where you buy your wood burning stove from, and if you're gonna buy one, spend the money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't cheap out.
And that's one thing I really want to emphasize here, what Nikki was talking about. And I'm really glad, Nikki, you brought that up, and Richie, you too, about spending the money. You know, when it comes to wood stoves, you know, there's no easy fix.
Yeah.
Okay. And you could burn down everything you own. I've seen it happen time and time again, where somebody just has a wood stove put in and they lose their entire home, trailer, whatever they live in, and it's gone. And it's devastating. It's absolutely devastating. So please, listeners, make sure you're being careful. If you don't know how to put a wood stove in, don't put it in.
Truly don't do it. I mean, we built our place again. We built it from the ground up. The interior, I know how to do drywall and all of that. Behind our wood stove is not drywall. We have cement board. The entire wall. We did not have to do that. I didn't care. The entire wall. I built the cement pad that it's on bigger than it needs to be, because this is our retirement. I mean, this is it for us. We work the land now. We did our dues in the corporate world and took that money and threw it all into this. So that was the place that was most important, was the wood stove and our safety, that we know at night if it is burning, there's not going to be a problem. So we bought a used one to start, because we weren't staying in the home, and that's where we would warm it. So, and we still do, to keep things going, so I can drywall and do what I need to do, keeps the house warm. That is going away. And the new, not cheap one that we purchased is going in, and I can sleep sound at night with that. So yes,
I can't wait.
Save your money
I'm
and
excited
do
to
the
move
right
that
thing. I'm not excited to move that in.
You know, Lisa and Nikki bring up a really good point. Don't cut corners. Make sure you do it properly. Make sure you do it the way that it really needs to be done. Go above and beyond, because as Lisa said, we see it quite often where things can get away in a heartbeat. Even Lisa has been in a situation where there was a fire near her and she's fearful for her property. This is where you need to think beyond your own self. Yes, if you cut corners and you don't spend the money and do it right, you can lose everything you have. But you're also putting everyone around you at risk as well. And think about how catastrophic that can be. We are surrounded by hundreds of acres of corn and soybeans. If I'm not responsible, and because of some way that we've cut corners, we are responsible for a fire that gets away from us, do you think those farmers are just going to say, hey, gee, I'm sorry that your house burnt down? No, they're going to come after us for the lost crops. And you have to think about your neighbor. It's nice and it's quaint, and we're not trying to scare anybody away from getting wood stoves. We love them. We'd love to have them. We may have one in the future when we build a little tiny home here on the property that I've asked Papa Jim for my 60th birthday. The secret's out. But you have to be responsible, and you have to think about someone other than yourself, because the fire can be so devastating. And Lisa and I, Cayce and Monica, we've seen instances where it gets away in a heartbeat when you think you're doing the right thing, and it only takes that one little shift in the wind or something, and there's catastrophe.
And we're all going into this as adults. I mean, you're going into the homesteaders. We are adults. Let's act as adults. Let's be responsible, because of course we burn. We have burn piles. We burn trash. We burn wood for heat. You got to be responsible in this lifestyle, because it's not just you that you're looking out for. You have animals that you're looking out for.
Right.
That could be, and when we say you could lose everything, the animals are not also just our animals, our fun, our babies. They're an income for most people. They're a food source for most people. I mean, that's a catastrophic loss. Your one mistake is you're trying to save $150. I mean, we push, self-sustainability, and we push, not having debt and that kind of stuff. But never think that here on Round the Hay Bale, we are telling you to cut corners and save money on doing it the incorrect way, because that is incorrect. We are not telling you that. We're saying that there are certain things that you need to take the time and the money and do it correctly, or hire somebody that knows how to do it correctly. So
Safety was one of the things that was really key for us, and not to sound like a safety Susie here, but exactly what you all are saying is, with us having woods, with us burning wood, with burn piles in the sort of, situation that we all live in, we don't have trash pickup. We have to either take our trash, and I'm all about no trash. So what we do have, we burn. And then I usually use that ash for the garden. So it all gets recycled. We bought it's either 2 or 3 horsepower water pump that we decided at the very beginning we needed that to throw into our pond if there was a fire here, because we wanted to be able to handle it. We have a whole section of fire tools and 5-gallon buckets we have set aside in case there's a fire. You know what I mean? So you build upon these things, and when you're talking about heat, you're talking typically about fire in the situations that we're all living in. There are other things that go with it. It is not a cheap lifestyle, but as you all just so correctly said, you could lose all of the money you put into it if you don't buy some of the proper adulting equipment that you really need. That's not fun. I mean, let's face it, guys. I have a 26 diameter square foot above ground pool that I bought thinking that was going to be the first thing I put up along with my outdoor kitchen. Well, it's been 4 years and that's not up yet.
Priorities.
Because all these other things are way more important than the fun.
So true. So true. And since we're talking about responsibility, I mean, this is a great segue to let everybody know, if you're going to have these heat sources that involve fire, whether it be your wood burning stove, a pellet stove, anything like that, make sure that your address is visible so that when the fire company does have to show up, they can locate where they're going. Of course, they're going to see the flames, but you know what I mean.
That's funny.
Airdrop.
I wasn't even issued a 911 address. I had to use my neighbor's address and be like, hey, you'll see me on the other side of the woods.
He was off grid.
On fire. Yeah, I was literally off grid. I had
legit.
nothing. I did not want it. I didn't want any of that.
There's different levels of off grid. He was at the different levels.
Yeah. But good times.
But hey, Monica, you and Eric, are y'all on wood burning or pellet, or are you like me and still mainly propane?
No, we actually don't have propane at all. We have electric heat that is extremely expensive because we don't have a heat pump. So we have AC, and then we don't have any other way really to heat the house except for that electric heat that's like, can you hear me, Alicia?
Just a little louder.
Oh, okay. We can, we don't have anything but electric heat that if it comes on, it's crazy expensive. So we don't actually ever turn that on. We only heat our house with the wood stove. And so we use a wood stove all year. As soon as the winter hits, we use the wood stove to heat the house. And so we've got a 2,400 square foot home. We have 2 levels. The upstairs can get pretty chilly, and that's where all my boys are. So we have extra blankets. You sleep in socks or hoodies. We do open the door during the day, and we will let the heat up there sometimes. But otherwise we keep in this house, we live in the main rooms. We live in the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen. And therefore we keep all the doors shut unless you absolutely need it open. If you're here in the schoolroom doing work in here, you bring a blanket or 2. That's just the rules. I wanted to speak about the safety part of it too, because, Eric is a planner and he's also very much a safety conscious person. Before we run our AC in the summertime, we do not run our AC. It could be 150 degrees outside, and unless we've PM'd the units and cleaned all the filters, he will not turn it on. And so he's actually taught the boys how to do that. So my 14-year-old, my 12-year-old, my 10-year-old can PM a unit. And so not that they do it by themselves, safety first here, guys, but they may know how to do a lot of it on their own if they needed to. If mom is here and dad is not, the boys can pretty much run the show. One of the things that we do also, which absolutely I can't watch, is Eric will not run our wood stove unless he cleans it first. And I mean, yeah, I won't be doing a video on that one. That is not OSHA approved. Okay. It may include a tractor bucket and a very tall ladder. It is, I literally roll. I'm like, bye-bye, gotta go. I cannot be in the area. I have to leave. I've already told him we're going to have to probably use the wood stove soon. He's going to have to call Caleb over and have Caleb and Luke help him. I refuse. But we will not turn our wood stove on. We will not on, but we will not put wood in that stove until it's actually cleaned out again. Now, at the end of the season, one of the first things we do once the season is over is we have one of the boys, they clean everything out, they vacuum it, they take everything out to the to the garden. We use that all season long. But we also have, I purchased this past year, we have like some chimney fire extinguishers that we keep in a bucket near the wood stove. So we have all those safety precautions because especially with a lot of kids, look, I got a brand new rug, y'all, last May. I was so excited. I got this brand new rug last May. It was so pretty. It's quite a bit of money. And it fills my entire living room. It's just gorgeous because my living room is big and it's beautiful. And then winter hit, and my 14-year-old was doing his duty because he is a fire master. Like this 14-year-old can start a fire that would put an adult to shame. He's really good at it and I can't do it. So I'm like, I can do a fire, but it takes me like 30 years to do it. And the kids are frozen. There's like icicles pouring out their noses. And so I let him do it. Well, needless to say, he was moving ashes around and I'm sitting there like 6 feet from him and the bucket hits the edge of we have like a little lifted piece, where your chimney is on, where your stove is actually on. The bucket went down and instead of being flat, it went sideways. And so all these ashes came spilling out onto my rug. And immediately I look up and I'm like, oh, and he's like, fire. And we were and the constant, I mean, you can see the red just burning holes right into my carpet. And I'm like, what? Thankfully, we had water right there. We always keep water right pretty much on the stove. And so immediately someone came running in with water. We doused it, but there was no real fire. It was just smoldering in my carpet. And I was like, well, that was a pretty rug. But, very aware. Nobody touches the stove unless they're authorized by dad or mom. I don't even touch the stove unless I'm authorized by Eric. I mean, like we have a lot of safety precautions here with the wood stove. And because we do have all our helpers, it's something that I've thought about as we get older. What will we do? Will we continue to have a wood stove? Because we're not going to have all my beautiful minions running in and out of the house. But thankfully, the youngest is still 6. So I have some time from the 6-year-old. At least 10 years before I start getting big attitudes. But wood stoves are what we do here, and that's how we heat our house. And I will say that personally, my electricity bill will go from easily $400 with 2 air conditioning units running all summer, $400 a month. It will easily go down to $175, $180.
Oh, wow. You gotta love that.
In the winter with just our wood. And we resource our wood. We have some beautiful friends that have a lot of trees on their land. And every couple years they call and say, hey, we're going to take some trees and get them down. Do you want to come get some wood? And Eric just went last weekend, got a whole truckload of wood, and we should have enough wood to last us through this season and possibly next, because we have some fresh wood that we can't burn yet. So we've got stuff right into next season, but we always think ahead and we're really safe about it. We don't ever leave the house with a fire burning. That's one thing we don't do. So when we get home from church on Sundays, it's cold. Like putting blankets on. So we're bundling up until, Eric can start a fire. But, what some of the things that Lisa said about, watching her husband chop the wood, and you're getting older, you have to think about those things. That's stuff that I've thought about a lot too. And it's, a pellet stove may be something in our future that we need to consider trading out. But thankfully for us right now, we've got the help and the resources that the wood stove is definitely more economical for us.
I have to say a funny story since Monica brought it up, because we all know that Monica and Eric have just a beautiful football team of children. But when I first started my homesteading journey this year during the summer, Monica and her kids came out to visit me. And when she was here, I was like, Monica, our houses are like the same size. What am I going to do for air conditioning? Because my rooms are big and I have 13-foot ceilings. So keeping air conditioning, and I personally could not afford $400 a month for air conditioning. I said, Monica, what should I do? Monica said, and I quote, all right, listeners, are you listening in? She said, you need to tell your family, find a really nice tank top. And that will be what they wear, because my air don't go below 80. And I have used that all summer. I said, well, Miss Monica said, our air is not going below 80, so find a tank top. So that is my story.
Yeah. Well, you have to be resourceful. And that's one of the things, in the wintertime, our house, I mean, look, it was like 60 degrees one morning last year, and it was getting below 60. And I'm like, hey, Eric, can you help me start a fire? It's like 58, 59 in the house. He was like, get the fire started, Monica. I was like, I tried. I'm not great at it. Like if I was on Survivor, I would be kicked off. Okay. I would be off the island. I am not good at starting the fire. If I get it started, it can go. And I'm like, yes. And then I turn around to like show somebody this. I'm like, look, guys, I started the fire, and it's out. So I'm not good at it, but my boys are great. I think it's a boy thing. They're like pyros, and it's like in there. And so they're like born pyromaniacs. And so it like immediately connects, and they get it, and their hands are great, and their minds are like, this is how you do it. And so needless to say, we're learning, we're teaching. We want them to be self-sufficient. We want them to live a lifestyle that they can be proud of. We want to have them skills. And so I just feel like even if I suck at starting a fire, I have a lot of little skilled hands that can help me really work on the fire thing. So, but also need to have that. I like having the wood stove, because when we did, all these people were losing power in Texas last year or the year before. It was so bad. People, their pipes were freezing, all these different things. And we didn't thankfully lose our power. We didn't lose our water. We had those abilities to have all those things. But one of the things that really set a fire under our butt, but it really made us think about, if we did lose power and if we did not have water, what would we do? How would we function? Can I cook in my cast iron skillets? Can I cook with my Dutch oven? And so we started practicing making meals and having things that we could cook without my oven. And so that was really cool that we were able to start that. And last year we really practiced that a lot more. And it's something that Eric has really been trying to teach the kids as well, is how can we be resourceful and not use electricity and still be able to eat and function when it's wintertime or whatever it is.
And that's one of the smart places to go. I mean, we lucked into the fact that we lived in enough different places, and for whatever purpose, it was a blessing that every time we moved, it was further and further north. When we finally hit where we had propane and we could only afford so much, we had to figure out the cold. So it kind of goes full circle back to, if you have the luxury of coming into this new, practice a couple of days saying, I'm not going to move the thermostat. Put your thermostat at 55 in the winter. What are you going to do? Because let me tell you, when you live that, it gets the creative juices flowing. And it also really makes you realize how quick the cold can set in. And it's not just burr, it's damp. Depending on your age, it affects your bones. And for some people, it could be debilitating. So you really have to figure that out. And if I could add to new homesteaders, not only just checking out their territory in the area that they're looking at, is really kind of try to, in the luxury of a home that has these amenities, put yourself in a position of not having it and see where you're comfortable. You might decide, we were going to move someplace a lot colder than where we ended up. And at the very end, thank the Lord, my husband changed his mind, because I don't know that I would have made it. That weather, and I have arthritis, I don't think it would have bode well for me to deal with the winter. So look at all these things, put yourself in the position, get uncomfortable for a minute. It's okay. You can always go back and flip the thermostat on if you found you couldn't make it, and then maybe not move to New Hampshire. Maybe you need Arizona. You know what I mean?
I want to do Arizona.
But figure it out before you invest. Can I afford the wood stove? Do I need the pellet stove instead? Can I handle Vermont? Maybe I need Texas.
My animals be able to handle that.
Yeah.
I think back to when I was a kid and we were camping, and it was like camping was a luxury for us, and I think back to when my parents finally, this was when I was a kid, way, way long time ago. Nobody thought about living off grid. And it's really funny because I think back to my parents when they built their retirement home. It stretched them pretty thin, but that was their dream. And they built their retirement home. It was a summer home. It was a weekend home. And I remember, we were in this modular that just got put on the foundation. It had no steps. It had no basement steps. My father was cooking breakfast on the camp stove down in the basement with the door open and the windows open just because it was pouring rain. Not something we normally do. I want to make that clear. And he was passing breakfast up the ladder and we had no furniture, no nothing, but we were awful thankful to have a home to be in. Right. And it's funny because when you have that camping background, you're pretty much prepared for a lot of things, because you're used to cooking on an open fire, cooking on an alternative heat source like a propane, having to bundle up when you're fall camping or even winter camping, you have the equipment. So it's just like, I think that really, if you have that camping background and not the glamping kind of camping, you really have that background to be prepared and be creative.
That's the best now. Literally like you're camping.
Yeah.
Like what is off-grid camp? What is off-grid living like?
Yeah.
It is literally like camping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when the power goes out, what do? Yeah, we go to our camp stove right away if we have it available. Yeah, because it's just ease and convenience.
Yeah.
You don't sit there and go, oh, the dishwasher's out. I guess I can't do anything. It's not going to work.
No.
It is.
Wait, what is that? What is the dishwasher that you speak of?
I don't know.
I don't own one.
Dishwasher. I wanted to hit on something that Monica had mentioned about how they keep water next to their wood burner. And that's important for two different reasons. And for those who are just getting into the thought of homesteading or adding an additional or new heat source, and they're thinking about a wood burning stove or a pellet stove, I really want to stress the point that having water on your surface, such as the wood burning stove or even the pellet stove, keeping in mind the pellet stove is electrical, so be careful there. I'm not talking about extinguishing with the water there, but your furnace has settings that are internally built to help with the humidity levels in your home. So when you turn your furnace on and it adjusts to your humidity levels, you're fine. But if you're going to go to an alternative heat source and you're just running that wood burning stove or a fireplace or pellet stove, you're pulling out the moisture out of your air and you're going to get sick quicker. Yeah. And that's something that my mother always did when we grew up. We grew up in the mountains in Southern California, and we just had a little potbelly stove. That was our only source of heat. And my mother always had a pot of water on the stove. And it was because we needed that moisture in the air to keep us from getting sick. And you would be surprised how quickly your sinuses will dry out and you'll get sick in a heartbeat. So for those who are considering this as an alternative heat source, make sure you have, you could get a little cast iron teapot or even just a bucket of water, not a plastic bucket, obviously. Just get yourself a nice little stainless steel pot, stick it on your stove with some water on it because you're going to need that moisture.
You'll dry out very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Very quickly. And if, something happens like what Monica experienced and there's an issue where some ashes get knocked over and there's a fire, you've got water handy right then and there to put it out. So it's an important element. There are so many things that I think, we don't think about on the day-to-day. Even those of us who have this source of heating, it becomes secondary to us. But for somebody coming in, it's good that they can hear these different things that we're ping-ponging back and forth with each other so that they can kind of stuff that in their pocket when they're ready to make these decisions and they've got that knowledge.
Yes, homesteading is not all fun and games.
Well, I think it's important.
Definitely not a simple life.
Well, one of the things you brought up was the fact that it'll dry you out really quickly. It's really important too, to not only have your carbon monoxide or smoke detectors, have those little safety things in your house too, but know your environment enough and know your family. If you have an elderly person living with emphysema, if you have asthmatic children or you yourself have asthma, you may want to consider a pellet stove versus a wood stove, because burning the wood is a possibility of those wood particles really exacerbating asthmatics, emphysema. I have 2 children that are asthmatic. Now, I didn't have a choice when I came in here of really choosing the wood versus the pellet at this point. We came in, there's a wood stove. That's what we got. That's what we got. And for us, that's just what we have right now. And that's what we have to deal with. So this time of year, knowing that the wood, as soon as we start our stove, the first thing, well, before we even start, as soon as it gets cold, we start our humidifier upstairs in my boys' room. I have all of my homeopathy, all of my natural remedies and oils. I have them out at the forefront, and they are ready so that the minute we start that wood stove, I am on these kids like craziness. Because I know that my 6-year-old will end up with a croup cough within 3 days. Within 3 days, I will have at least one kid barking. I have had kids stop breathing. I have had ER visits.
wow.
I've had so many things. And I know that a lot of it is directly correlated with the heat in the home and the humidity levels and the wood burning stove. And so it's something I'm very aware of. And that's another reason why Eric is such a spaz about making sure everything is super cleaned out at the beginning of the season, at the end of the season. Because for us right now, we don't have the option of going to another stove right this second. And so for us, we use what we have. And so knowing that, we make sure our wood is good, we make sure everything's clean, and we have so many different areas of humidifiers running at all times.
Right.
And I know, Alicia, you understand this because you have asthma. So you know how dangerous that can be when you have that being made worse by the heat or the lack of moisture and things like that. So yeah.
And
that's
unfortunately, I was gonna say, unfortunately, I think it's because one thing that everybody watches the movies and Little House on the Prairie thing, and everything's so wonderful because they have the little fire in the fireplace and everything is lovely, but they don't touch on those things. They romanticize everything. All of your movies, all of your shows, everything you've watched about living this type of a life that we're all yearning for. They don't tell you these things. They don't make it a priority. It's all romanticized. And so I think, unfortunately, some people come into this with that romanticized notion that, oh, I'm going to have a fireplace and it's going to be lovely. And then wham, bam, they're hit with all these things that they weren't expecting and didn't know about. So it's really, this is a great topic that I'm so thankful that we're able to address it and hit all of these things that our listeners can, like I said, put in their pocket and keep it for later.
And if I could just kind of circle back to one of the more out of the box things for people who may only be focusing on pellet and wood stove, is check into rocket mass heating. It's a radiant heat with your source outside. So if you have these kinds of issues, whether you're elderly or have breathing issues, you could have a propane way to cook your food, but you could have radiant heat coming into your home in various rooms by using this rocket mass heating system. And you're not chopping wood, you're not splitting wood, you're gathering sticks and twigs and things like that. So there are other ways. Do your homework.
Nikki,
Yeah, and I think the homework is
I have my brick set aside for my little rocket stove. I've always got it ready with my little grate, everything. So in case I need to cook out in the summer kitchen, and I'll be darned if one of the boys don't always show up and they take the bricks for something. The bricks are away.
Tell them no s'mores.
Right?
No s'mores for you.
No s'mores for you.
And I think it's really important, like you said, for everybody to do research and do their own research based on their own needs, their wants and all that, their stage of life, whatever, what have you. Because, wood burning it is dirty. It's very dusty. And, again, it just may not be right for you, or it may be perfect for you. So I think it was really great talking about all of this stuff, but it's time to hear more from our sponsor.
So many of us are seeking a return to simpler life, a homesteading lifestyle, hobby farming, seeking self-sustainability on so many different levels. And many of us are doing that these days due to world events. And many of us are starting to find out that growing up in urban settings or never having been involved in farming to begin with are learning that we have so much to learn. But where do we find all of this information? Well, I'm here to tell you we have an exciting new series where experienced homesteaders teach new homesteaders the skills and information they need to know. Welcome to the Homesteading Academy, education for homesteaders by homesteaders. Canning season around the corner, it is time to start prepping. Founded during the pandemic, when the scarcity of canning jar lids became a long-term issue for the home canner,
4Jars jumped into action, producing quality canning lids that are even thicker and sturdier than their competitors, while still maintaining the quality and loyalty as a family-based business.
With added stainless steel into the metal of the lids to prevent rusting, 4Jars provides quality canning lids to food preservationists around the world.
4Jars is not just your standard canning lid company. They are like a family, giving back to the community every way they can. Be sure to click our link in our LinkTree to pick up some 4Jar lids for yourself.
Thank you again to Nikki and Richie for joining us tonight. We were so happy to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you for having us on. We really appreciate it. And it was really enjoyable.
Yeah.
I learned stuff.
And that's what's so great is we all get to learn from each other and share it with our listeners.
Yeah, that's the best part.
Be sure to follow our guests on their social media platforms. The links will be in our LinkTree link.
And all of those links so you can learn more about the Rocket Mass Stove and all that Nikki and Richie talked about tonight will be in our LinkTree link. And if you're enjoying our third season of the podcast, add us to your favorite by pressing the plus or the follow button.
And rating the podcast and leaving comments helps us to grow. And we appreciate you all so much.
We certainly do. Alrighty, friends, we will see you on next week's episode.